君の名前
Welcome. Scott here. Here is a quick boss guide for a mission dungeon event, Act 3 Finale Climax Seat of the God. The event marks the debut of Rydia FR. The event synergy units are Rydia, Yuffie, Firion and Jack Garland. Both Rydia and Firion will also be getting their force enhancements and rework. We will be fighting 2 Deathgaze which has 85 million HP each. They resist all elements. The turn requirement is 55. The HP requirements is a strict 3000. Before I continue further, here is a small disclaimer clause for the video. The guide is written based on the time that the event was released for the Japanese version. Please do note that it is possible that the boss fight mechanics might differ when the actual event is released in global. Like most other Shinryu fights, the boss gains increased brave damage and gain resistances at start of the fight and 79% HP threshold. Bringing a support like Lunafreya, Charlotta, Aerith, Ramza, Yuna, and Selpha that grants damage boosting aura will make your fight easier. As the boss gains substantial boost to their defenses with the auras, it is important to inflict debuffs that lower their defenses. On the screen, I have listed down the examples of the key utility that you can consider for this fight. These bosses have nasty brave and HP ignore nullification ability attacks. When its force gauge is at 50% and above, they will follow with Rip Plus, which is a brave gain HP attack that ignore nullification effects. Its force ability is a double AoE brave plus HP. All hits ignore brave and HP nullification. If it breaks the target, it means it is most likely a KO unless the unit has a last stand. To handle these attacks, it is either you negate their brave gains or evade their attacks. For party evasion, you can use Rydia, Edge, or Leela. Do note that Leila's evasion is not guaranteed. You can also use evasion tanks like Glove, 8 or Cater. Brave control is important to handle the Poison Nails plus force ability or Rip plus follow-up attack. You can negate their brave gain with Cater, Setzer or debuffs like Cypher and Yuffie if you are bringing them to the party. You can also use Poison, Sap and Brave negation to lower the boss brave gains with Lily Set or Arcela. As the fight features a lot of thresholds attacks, counter tanks and off-turn attackers works well here. If you are bringing cover counter tanks like Orin or Gladio, make sure you have off-turn healing as the boss Rip Plus will bypass HP damage negation. When the boss force time is activated, it will gain 9999% damage negation against non-force ability attacks. You cancel its force gauge by dealing water elemental weakness damage. As the boss resists all elements, a simple water enchants and basic imperil won't meet the condition. You need to make use of Rydia True Imperil debuff. You need to bring water enchanters if you are using another unit's FR to cancel it. Rydia base call will meet the requirements and provided that Rydia needs to have her LD passive. In Shinryu, you need to understand the effects gained by the boss as the force gauge build up, its force ability and its force time effect. As your party has low force levels, it is highly certain that the boss force gauge will build up faster than yours. To have a better understanding on the basics of the force gauge mechanics and Shinryu fights, I have done a video explaining the mechanics. I have included the link to the video under the comments and video description for your quick reference. Throughout the fight, the boss force gauge will gain 50% brave damage resistance. When the force gauge is more or equal to 30%, the bosses will gain 30% brave damage up and 30% HP damage up. When the force gauge is more or equal to 50%, its basic attacks, Aeroga and Banishing Gaze will be followed up with Rip Plus, which is a single target brave gain, HP attack that ignores HP nullification effects. The boss force gauge will build up faster as its HP is lowered. You can refer to the table on the screen for the percentages. At the 100% threshold, the boss will use its force ability and activates its force time for 6 turns. The boss force ability, Poison Nail ++ is a double AoE brave, followed by an AoE Brave plus HP where all the Brave hits ignore Brave damage nullification. The HP attacks also ignores HP damage nullification. This attack is dangerous if the attack connects. So it is best to evade with evasion or negate its Brave Gain with freeze debuff or Brave Gain negation debuffs. Upon using the force ability, the boss will enter into its force time where the gauge will start to emit a red hue with a counter of 6 on its gauge. When the force time is activated, the bosses will gain an enhancement that allows the bosses to gain 9999% HP damage resistance against all non-force ability HP damage. To deal the boss force weakness, you need to use a force ability that deals water weakness damage. The FR that can meet this condition is Rydia FR. You can also meet the force weakness condition by enchant a non-elemental FR with Rydia's calls. Both Rydia's True Water Imperil debuff and Water Enchant buff needs to be active for the conditions to be met. Von FR could also work with a base Water Enchant call. Now let's go through the fight key mechanics. The boss has 2 basic attacks and rotate between them. Depending on the boss force gauge thresholds, it will follow up those basic attacks with RIP+. Firstly, let's go through the basic attack mechanics. The first basic attack is Aeroga, which is a single target magic wind elemental brave attack. The second basic attack is Banishing Gaze, which is a single target magic brave attack. It will grant the boss 50% turn rate up buff for 5 turns and inflicts the target with 50% turn rate down debuff for 5 turns. Both debuff and buff are framed. The boss will also trigger this Banishing Gaze counters at the following HP thresholds: 69%, 59%, 49%, 29%, and 19%. Like all counter mechanics, these triggers don't occur during your burst or summon phase. However, the triggers will occur back to back once you have exited those phases. If the boss force gauge is at least 50%, it will trigger RIP+ as its follow-up attack from 2 basic attacks that I mentioned earlier. RIP+ is a single target Brave Gain that scales 200% of the boss initial Brave followed by a HP attack. This attack will bypass HP damage immunity. To negate this attack, you need to either evade it or nullify its Brave Gains. At the following HP thresholds, 79%, 49%, 29% and 19% HP threshold, the boss will trigger Reaper Rise, which will grant the boss 50% speed up for 3 turns and inflicts the following 2 debuffs on your party. Poison Claw is a framed debuff which is a HP poison debuff that scales off the boss attack stats. It will last for 5 turns. The other debuff is non-framed debuff that lowers your Brave recovery by 50% for 1 turn. The Reaper Rise will trigger even while in your burst or summon phase. If you are using Rydia, these triggers won't lower the duration of her blink buff. For this fight, if you are doing an off-turn counter setup strategy, I will recommend you to give the boss to trigger its force time by avoiding its attack or freeze its Brave Gain. Use your non-elemental FR with Rydia calls, for Water Enchant and Water True Imperil so you can deal water weakness to dispel its force gauge. Removing its force gauge will also remove its RIP+ follow-up attacks. As the fight has a strict 3000 HP requirement, it is best to stand by burst healing calls. I have shown some examples on the right side of the screen. Debuff evasion units like Aerith, Lena also shines here. Selfie has debuff evasion but her debuff evasion has 70% unless you use self-summon. Alexander's summons is also commonly used when the event is released in JP. Traps that offer healing like Firion, Maria, and Minwoo are also good to be used here. We have come to the last part of the guide. Before I end the guide, let's cover a bit on the featured FR unit, Rydia. The FR conditions is a counter type FR that focus on water enchant and number of your evasion that you party takes. Upon activating her FR, Rydia will inflict a 3-turn Feyfroth debuff which lowers all targets hit rate by 100% along with lower the defense by 20% and lowers the boss HP damage resist by 20%. During the force time, Your party will gain 50% HP damage up and raises their max brave cap by 50% if they are dealing elemental weakness damage. Now let's quickly go through her FR conditions. 1. You will get 50% HP damage bonus when anyone evade an attack. A party-wide evasion will only uptick 50%. Rydia offers guaranteed evasion with her LD, and her Venoth debuff from her FR also reduces the boss hit rate by 100%. Evasion counter tanks like Glove and 8 are good partners with her. Leela could work, but her turn warping won't allow to utilize her force time to its best potential. You can make use of lowering the hit rate to meet this condition with Kimuri's Total Blindness or Yuri BT Aura. Evading a debuff trigger with debuff evasion also count to uptick this condition. Bring debuff evasion units like Aerith and Lena will also help in that regard. The Dragoons, Kain and Freya are good partners for her FR against single target attacking bosses. With a lock call on the Dragoon, they can hide in the mid-air dodge those attacks to meet the conditions. 2. The second condition is you need to deal water elemental damage. Rydia is party water elemental enchanter, so you shouldn't have difficulty in meeting this condition. The HP damage bonus will increase by 20% for per attack for an ally and 50% for Rydia herself. This FR excels in most fights unless you are fighting against a boss that have lots of guaranteed attack in their kit. Don't think because the boss has only a guaranteed hit force ability and you think Rydia FR won't be useful. Depending on the number of attacks you have evade, this FR can get the HP damage bonus to an absurd level of amount. With this, I have come to the end of my boss guide presentation. Hopefully you find it useful. If you like the video, please give a like. Please subscribe to my channel for future gaming content. Good luck for the fight in the coming days. Bye.